The weak revel in their aggression. The strong in their gentleness. Be more hard and less attack.
Good evening and a warm welcome to Big Budget Business, where we discuss pertinent issues that we face as business people and we highlight the lives of prolific entrepreneurs making strides in their respective fields. Now, today's interviewee is not an early stage entrepreneur per se, rather an accomplished legal titan and serial entrepreneur. Mompoloki Mogobe, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm honored.
Thank you very much, sir. The honor is ours. Let me remind you at home that the show is live. Please do share your comments and questions so that we can engage. As the show progresses, we will share a number that you can call into and get answers to your questions. So let's engage and build our businesses. Remogobe, let me start with asking you about your personal background. Anything that you'd like to share about yourself as an individual?
I'm from the Mudukanele ward in Kanye. That's where my father is originally. But in terms of my background, I'm a product initially of a single parent home, in the sense that in the formative stages, my mother was not married to my father, and we grew up Mokasi, in the sense that we're in Bonteng at some point, and so on and so forth. But I also like to think of myself as a product of two cattle posts, as I've mentioned to people, one being Makatanyane and the other one being Mahumalebe. Makatanyane is in the southern district, where we used to go when I stayed with my grandparents. This is when my mother was bringing me up alone. And, there was interesting things that used to happen at the time. And one of the things that I like talking about is the fact that we used to go to the cattle post on Fridays and spend time there. And then Mondays, we go to school, walking long distances up to 30 Ks. I attended school at Matsakhang. And those formative experiences, walking in the winter, sometimes barefooted, having your heels cracking and that kind of thing, those experiences were interesting. But my parents reconciled, thank God, at around when I was around age 10. Okay. And I'm one of two children. Me and my older sister Nora, we're happy to see them reconcile, because then our status as single products of single home changed, and the father was back in the home. But things were interesting and tough in a good way, because growing up in the cattle post, because then after my father was in the picture, then we went to another cattle post known as Mahumalebi, which is located in the Kalahadi area, okay, 80 Ks beyond Jwane. So the idea of knowing cattle by color, yes, in Setswana, the idea of being able to whistle and oh, yes, that kind of thing, and taking care of cattle, and the milk and so on and so forth. Just communing with nature and interacting with nature as I grow up. That is an important part of me. And I think it also developed the resilience muscle in me, because we had to deal with some tough situations. And sometimes we used to get beaten for the slightest thing. And that sort of toughened us.
Spare the rod and spoil the child.
Yeah. There was one incident, for instance, without, getting carried away, where my dad started really liking to read books early. Yes. And there was a time I was late coming back to the house, and the sun had set by the time I arrived. Wow. I tried to argue with my dad not to administer a beating, but he said, look, I'm from the library. I was studying. Yes. And I was genuinely studying, and I lost track of time. But I still he still administered those things.
It was a matter of principle.
Yeah. And he couldn't prove or disprove whether I was in the library, but he wasn't interested in listening to me. So that sort of attitude, the idea of measured corporal punishment, even being late for school. When I was at GSS, we had a principal called Rasabotsa. Mr. Rasabotsa used to stand at the gate, and he would administer, a few beatings when we arrived. So those sort of things I remember when I'm thinking of my childhood and how they impacted my entrepreneurship career. And of course, the other classic one was my mother pinching me on my thighs when I didn't seem to focus on my maths and my studies. There was a time when she pinched me so hard that, my thighs turned sort of grayish or purplish. And I resolved, seeing that I'm about to go gangrene on my thighs, I resolved at the time that, I'm either going to be number one or number two at anything that I strive to do. Wow. So that's a quick summary of the kind of childhood I had and the background I had growing up.
Wow, thank you very, very much for that. It seems quite colorful in that a lot of us youth today, I wouldn't say were robbed, but didn't quite have this communing with nature and, Hodisa and being at the crawls and the like. So it really seems like an interesting thing. And also, I like how you said your mother used to pinch you to set you right in the right direction. So that could be seen as a form of mentorship from early on.
Yes.
That set you in line and helped you to determine what you wanted to do, be first or second in anything.
Yes,
it
great. Was, and thank God that for the most part I was successful in that regard. Yes, you are right in saying that the youth of today are in a way robbed, and we as the parents should take responsibility that we didn't quite replicate what our parents did with us, and in a sense, the changes came over the time, but I think we went too far in adopting Western ways of doing things. We should have done what other cultures like the Chinese and perhaps the Arabs did to retain more of our culture.
Of course.
Even as we adapt and introduce good things in new cultures. So it is a challenge. And even speaking for myself as a parent, it is still a challenge. When to administer that beating? When does it become? When does it become? Abuse and so on, and to be
the regulation of that administration.
Yeah, because now there's greater awareness about it, and of course the challenge of children always wanting to speak English in the home. It is something that I'm trying to fight against. But when we have programs like this, we end up speaking in English. So in a way, it's the sign of the times.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I think being a universal language and everything.
Yes.
But it's important that you highlight the importance for us also as youth to hold on to whatever cultural norms and beliefs we have. I, for one, am very fond of my mother tongue. I won't lie to you. Which is Ndebele, of course.
Yeah.
And then also Setswana, having grown up Setswana, the norms, the values that are inculcated. It's important for us to hold on to that, regardless of what environments we find ourselves in. It's important for us to hold on to that.
Yeah, I'm similarly positioned in terms of my attachment to my mother tongue, which is Setswana. And the language is so rich.
Absolutely.
Setswana is so rich. If you consider the idioms, some things are not translatable. That, go balabala ga ngwana go supe botlhale, phokotso eo dithetsenyana, things like that. Phokotso go tshela o dithetsenyana, and things like that. Yes, there's so many beautiful idioms that are contained there. The way you just have to say one, and there's a whole amount of learning and amount of motivation that you can pick up from some of these idioms. One of my favorite is which my father really used to inculcate in me, to use your word, is more mogolo go betla wa taola wa motho wa ipetla, and those sort of things. So I love those idioms.
Absolutely. No, it's important for us to embrace the culture.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that, sir.
Mm.
Now that we've sort of gotten your background personally, and I see it's a very culture-rich background, let's talk about Mompoloki Mogobe, the entrepreneur. Where did this knack for entrepreneurship start? How did you get into it? And how did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that question. You know, there's a phrase about being bitten by the entrepreneurial bug. And as a friend of mine, when I was saying, I don't know when exactly the bug bit me, and he responded by saying, "Oh, some of us were even bitten by entrepreneurial snakes." You know?
Oh, yeah.
meaning
So it
that
was heavy.
meaning that some people are really pushed into it by circumstances. But in my case, it was more of an evolution. But as the evolution was taking place, there was also a cataclysmic event, which really caused me to really focus on the idea of not just the law, which was my profession, but entrepreneurship, specifically property. And the cataclysmic event, as I call it, and at the time it seemed like a cataclysm in the sense that it was comparable to a flood, some big event, you know, or a great fire, was when I was facing the prospect of losing my license as a lawyer or my ability to practice law, where I was facing I won't go into details, but some of my colleagues saw it fit to bring an application to court to have me struck off.
Wow.
And, you know, I had made a mistake. I had been a little arrogant.
Yes.
But of course, what happened is that they blew everything out of proportion, in my view. Even the court made such a comment in its decision, because the matter went as far as a court of appeal. But this whole thing dragged for about 2 to 3 years. But at that time, the mere realization that there's a possibility of my profession being taken away from me caused me to rethink. And then good thing that came out of it is that I was thrust into personal development. I was thrust into reading. I was thrust into attending courses and seminars and exposing myself to learnings that were suited for entrepreneurship. And I immersed myself in property. You know, the Kiyosaki's of this world were very inspirational. The Ross of this world, and so many other authors on property. I liked property especially because some of my main clients, my devoted and committed clients, were developers, and they were into property. So it was almost like a natural progression. That's why I say that it was almost gradual, but also there was a trigger in terms of this cataclysmic event, as I call it.
Absolutely. You know, just to interject there a bit, I am picking up the fact that, you know, some of the things that we go through in life can be the ones that catapult us into either a better state or, you know, a worse state, because you could have chosen to wallow in self-pity. Of course, you didn't share the details of what it is that you went into, but you could have chosen to be negative about the situation, but you chose to be optimistic. And also what I picked up from there is that you mentioned that you immersed yourself in self-development. So before we venture into things, sometimes it might be important for us to seek self-development in those fields.
That's brilliant. What you've just captured, my thoughts, you've just captured my beliefs, because I think, you know, that's a very important consideration. The reason why when you're in an aeroplane and when the air hostess is in front of you, she says, each and every time, before you can help even your child, make sure that you put that mask on first.
Of course.
So you cannot help somebody until and unless you help yourself. So entrepreneurs out there should realize, and I think most of them are aware, that the only time that the situations they are in improve is when they themselves improve. In other words, the circumstances improve as you improve. So because even as the great Jim Rohn says, you know, he says, education will get you far. Education will give you comfort. But self-education will give you a fortune. Will earn you a fortune. I think I'm paraphrasing what Jim Rohn is saying, but what he's saying, he's not talking about a fortune in terms of cash only. Of course. He's talking about a fortune in terms of how you develop personally.
And enrich yourself.
You become enriched. The things around you that change will only change as a result of the enrichment and the self-development that you consciously undertake yourself.
Wow. Wow. And I think this was this was reflected very much with this COVID-19 pandemic, how a lot of people took that time to develop their skills. A lot of people took their time to start their businesses also, as the show is about, and to really immerse themselves in enriching themselves with respect to knowledge in whatever fields that they're in. So we could look at this corona pandemic positively and say some people did actually engage in a lot of self-development. And as you said, your circumstances outside will change to the extent that you develop yourself personally.
Yes.
So I think at home there's a nugget of wisdom, if I may. There's a nugget of wisdom. Your circumstances will change to the extent that you develop yourself.
Speaking of the nuggets of wisdom, I had the privilege during especially the first lockdown. You remember it was roughly 2 months. I really had a time to introspect and to look at certain things. And as you mentioned, the nuggets. And for you who don't know out there, I have a program on YouTube called Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. And one of the nuggets out there is how to thrive, to survive and thrive during lockdown. And I speak about how learning, self-introspection, self-improvement is one of the biggest things that you pick from the lockdown. It's almost as if the good Lord up there said, these people, these creatures I've created that I love so much, I'm so busy with everything they're doing. How can I slow them down? Wait a minute. What's the best way to slow them down? Okay, a contagious, deadly virus. Pandemic. It's almost like it was designed that way to help us stay, in our spaces and introspect. And I think, insofar as 2020 is concerned, if there's anything good that has come out of this otherwise dreadful year, it has helped us to self-introspect and for some of us to recalibrate and reposition ourselves for greater and bigger things. And I commend you guys. When we were prepping for the show, you mentioned that even this studio is I don't want to say it's a product of COVID, but it certainly came about during the lockdown. And I'm sure ideas that you have been bubbling in your head were then focused, laser film focused into developing this. So similarly, relating it to my example, my colleagues' effort to thwart my career was actually a blessing. And in fact, what the good book mentions that what the bad guy, the devil means for bad, the good Lord turns it around for good. So I've seen it with my own eyes happening in my life. That things that sometimes this is why young entrepreneurs out there need to live through the difficulties, learn to enjoy and to the experience and the process. Learn to embrace the process. The process is the same as the process involved in extracting precious metals, whether we're talking gold in terms of the process it goes through, the heat, refining,
alchemy,
or whether we're talking about diamonds, all that soil on that mud. I mean, we have mountains of soil and rejected material that has to be removed before we find our precious diamonds. Even after we find them, we have to refine them, we have to perfect them and polish them. So we have to really embrace that process. And I know it's difficult. When it's happening to you, it's difficult. But I would urge the listeners out there to constantly remind themselves, what can I learn from this experience? What are the lessons that I can be picked up? What are the potential benefits of this nasty experience I'm going through? And sometimes it helps you live through those challenges that you needlessly, that you inevitably have to go through to be able to be successful.
I think what Mogobe has highlighted there is the spirit of resilience for us as entrepreneurs, because there will be ups, there will be downs, there certainly will be a lot of challenges that we face. But as we navigate these challenges, it's important for us to build our resilience and face them and go through them. Maybe to go back into the business perspective, you run 17 companies, if I'm not correct.
17 physical companies, but in the end, it's about 11 businesses.
11 businesses. Wow, that's great. How do you handle all of that, sir?
I do have people who help me,
Absolutely.
and I do not
Team.
want to claim the credit for myself.
Yes.
I'm fortunate enough to be married to a highly industrious woman who is also an entrepreneur in her own right. She helps helps me manage some of these businesses, and there is no formula for success except the preparedness to learn continually.
Absolutely.
So I'm prepared to learn from others continually. I'm prepared to think of myself as a servant leader. In other words, the idea is to serve others.
Absolutely.
You have to serve your employees, you have to serve your clients, you have to serve your customers for you to benefit. So service is a prerequisite. So I'm constantly learning. I'm also constantly trying to learn from other entrepreneurs. I, for instance, belong to various groups of organizations where entrepreneurs are involved,
Yes.
in terms through which I'm able to have a situation where iron sharpens iron, as it were, and learn from these entrepreneurs. For instance, I am part of a mastermind group
Okay.
where we meet every so often,
Yes.
people from other areas and other disciplines,
Wow.
and we're able to sharpen each other and learn from each other and share challenges. And at the same time, and maybe we'll talk about this later, I'm part of the Angel Investors Network and Angel Network Botswana,
Okay.
through
Okay.
which we learn from entrepreneurs through the process of mentorship.
Yes.
People don't know that one of the special benefits of mentoring others is that you're actually learning.
Wow.
In the same way as the Tswana says, "Botale jwa phala, botso palane." The wisdom of the elders comes from the youth.
Wow.
So it's an opportunity also for me to learn.
Yes.
And every time I'm sitting with my mentees, and I have several of them, I remind them that, look, this is a mentorship program, and it's two ways.
Yes.
I'm learning from you, you are learning from me.
Absolutely.
For instance, the reason why I'm so involved in the digital space is because of my interaction with my children in the first place, who are very savvy when it comes to technology, and also interacting with some of my mentees. Every time I share with them, I say, look, update me on this. And recently I got into TikTok. I never thought I'd see myself in TikTok because of one of my mentees was playing with my phone, and I'm even finding myself with TikTok followers. So strange things happen if you are willing to expose yourself and to learn. So if there's one secret, I would say is it's service. And it's service.
Yes.
If you're prepared to serve and to learn as you serve others, there's no limit to what you can do as an entrepreneur.
Wow, you raise a very interesting point there, because I first came across this issue of servant leadership when I was on a Young African Leaders program. Now, on this program, they mentioned to us how servant leadership entails a whole lot, but it ties back to the good book, which says the first shall be the last and the last shall be the first. In a sense, servant leadership, and well, personally for me, it highlights the need for empathy. I need to be able to put myself in your shoes to understand where you are coming from, despite the fact that I'm a leader. Because a lot of people, when they're in leadership positions, might want to dictate before actually understanding what your needs or what your talents might be. If we sit down and engage, and then I put myself in your shoes, we might find that our engagement might be a mutually beneficial one and not very one-sided. And that for me was, what I really picked up from the servant leadership aspect.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the good book, and I can refer you to the book of Mark, where, James and John, the sons of Zebedee, approach Christ, believing that Christ is going to set up a kingdom on earth. And they ask him, make sure that one of us is on either side of you.
Exactly.
And grant that to us. And then Christ responds by saying that, you know not what you ask. What you're asking for is not for me to give. In other words, I'm not going to be dishing out positions.
Yes.
He's actually saying that you are the ones who determine positions, because he says eventually that he who shall be the greatest among you shall be the servant. And who shall be the greatest, even, I don't know how he put it, I'm paraphrasing, is the servant of most, the least among you, the one who serves the most. So he's basically saying success, achievement, and elevation comes from the preparedness to serve. In other
Yes.
words, you have to humble yourself.
Absolutely.
You have to stop bickering and complaining and murmuring,
Yes.
so that you can get somewhere. You know what happens to murmurers? They get wiped out in the wilderness.
Of course.
That's what happened to the children of
Wow.
Israel. They were murmuring and complaining nonstop. They never reached the promised land. Only two, I believe, Joshua and Caleb, reached.
Wow.
So I'm just throwing the Bible at you to show you some of these concepts that can be applied in entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Are biblical in origin,
Yes.
and they are capable of easy application if we really take the Bible at its word.
So maybe for me to try and throw something at you here, this servant leadership or service in entrepreneurship can be very much likened to a lot of successful businesses, which are about solving people's problems,
Yes.
and therefore serving them.
Yeah. Before you ask yourself what your salary is going to be, considering the type of car you'll be driving, concentrate on how you can improve the customer experience.
Wow.
I am preaching to myself here because I have to remind myself sometimes that it's more about enhancing and improving the client or customer experience.
Yes.
And it's a lot less about you.
Yes.
So that is the challenge that entrepreneurs, we have to continually remind ourselves, because these are basics. Once you grasp these basics, there's no limit to how far you can go.
Wow, thank you very much for that. Let me remind you at home that the show is live. If you have questions or comments, do share them. Let's engage and build our businesses. And as the show progresses, I will share a number that you'll be able to call into if perhaps you'd like to speak to Remogobe or myself. Anyway, Remogobe, let's get into the legal aspect of things. And now you see a lot of young people, especially those in business, tend not to worry about legal issues until they find themselves in sticky predicaments. And why would you say it's important for young people and also those in business to be more informed with respect to legal aspects?
Well, the whole framework, we live in a constitutional democracy, which means that the very environment around which we exist is a legal framework. And this also goes further to say the legal framework, the laws, the regulations, they determine your business activity to some extent, or the business environment in which you operate. For instance, there are certain enterprises that require licensing. You need to recognize that as an entrepreneur, you need to protect yourself. You need to insulate yourself against being sued. You have to therefore incorporate your company. And you've had a guest here before me who talked about intellectual property.
Absolutely.
It's very important to protect your ideas, to protect your creations and so on.
Yes.
So I think it is something that we can only just keep reminding the entrepreneurs that don't wait until the problems overwhelm you. Know this from the day you start, that the problems are coming. Legal problems are coming, problems of all sorts. So try and establish a relationship with a lawyer, the same way you establish a relationship with your accountant.
Yes.
The same way you establish a relationship with your, with your doctor.
Yes.
So in our case, because of the size of our operations, we have several, lawyers that we work with, not only in terms of Lerumo Mogobe, but there are other lawyers even outside ourselves, where depending on the complexity of the matter, lawyers such as Monte Marumo that we use, for instance, if as required. There are also advocates in South Africa. So we recognize, and me as a lawyer have recognized from the early age that you can really be blindsided if you're not careful, because you never know which direction the blows can come.
Wow.
So it's not always about being resourced. It's more about resourcefulness. In other words, you should have resources available that are accessible at any given time. So it's important. So I would emphasize the importance of legal protection in the sense of forming corporations, incorporating your companies to protect yourself. Don't operate as a sole proprietor just walking about. It's not a good idea, because apart from anything else, if and when your enemies and your competitors or whoever it is comes up against you and gets a judgment against you, you are vulnerable.
Yes.
you're exposed.
A lot
The
of
deputy
liability
sheriff,
there.
the deputy sheriff can come after your bed,
Personal
your
belongings.
television, your personal belongings. Exactly. So it is very important, and I'd like to think that entrepreneurs who are listening to this show will recognize the importance of legal protection.
Yes.
There are forms of legal insurance as well which are available,
Okay.
but I would strongly urge that it's better to have a personal relationship with your own lawyer, because in as much as we have those things, I won't mention their name, the legal insurance,
Yes.
it is limited. Some of them, they go as far as writing a letter of demand,
Wow.
and that's it.
Wow.
When it comes to going to court to defend you, when it comes to conveyancing and transferring property, there are limitations to how far they can go. So it's very, very important that lawyers familiarize themselves. Entrepreneurs familiarize themselves with the legal setup,
Yes.
so that they can run successful enterprises. Even just understanding the tax regime,
Yes.
because
Absolutely.
it's riddled with landmines. If you don't have a lawyer or a tax consultant, you might find yourself falling foul.
Wow. Wow. No, thank you very much for that. I think we all see the importance of us understanding legal frameworks and, of course, establishing those relationships with lawyers as we go on with our business journeys. I think let's get a bit personal, if you don't mind. I wanted to know, what drives you? What would you say is your why?
I want to make a difference in people's lives. I want to help shift paradigms.
Yes.
I also want to to make a difference in terms of personal accomplishment. So I hate the idea of waking up in the morning and not feeling productive,
Okay.
and not feeling that I can impact somebody and add value to somebody.
Yes.
So my why is really to try and serve and make a difference in other people's lives. If I can impact one or two young ones or youth, I will have done achieved my purpose. If I can motivate, like I like doing, I like saying in my show,
Yes.
infuse, energize, empower, and inspire. Those are the four. I've narrowed them down to four, but
Yes.
obviously it's a broader concept of motivation. So my why is about motivating and impacting others, and ensuring that I benefit in the process through service.
Wow.
I don't know if I've adequately answered your question.
No, definitely you have. I mean, it tends not to be something too broad. And
Yes.
I can see that you said you've narrowed it down, and that's then what drives you. It's like, when we work, we did speak a bit about our business mission when we develop strategy and everything, and how that mission should be something that is clear, succinct, and then we can know that it's concise. It will drive all of our activities and our actions towards that one thing. So thank you for letting us know what drives you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Right. Okay. Now, let me remind you once again that we are live. This is a very interesting conversation with Mompoloki Mogobe. Please share your comments, share your questions. This is your opportunity to engage. And let me share the number that you can call into should you have a question. The number is +267 7305 9578. I repeat, +267 7305 9578. So, Remogobe, tell me, from a community development perspective, and just outside of the business realm, what is it that tickles your fancy? What are you involved in?
Well, the things that are involved in do overlap with business. They do overlap with entrepreneurship. One of the things that I'm extremely excited about, because of the fact that it's relatively new, is the program Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast,
Yes.
which runs on YouTube. And please, if you are listening out there, grab your phones, go to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast, and press the subscribe button.
It's important.
I really want to get those subscriptions.
Yes.
And people don't know why we're always talking about subscriptions. It's because to remain relevant on YouTube,
Yes.
you have to get
Have subscribers.
growing subscriptions at any given time.
Yes.
To also be able to work with the algorithms and to be able to be seen by the people that you want to target,
Yes.
you need subscribers to show that people are interested in what you are doing.
I hope the influencers out there
Mm.
and those with YouTube channels and the like are listening to that.
Mm.
I see how you said that your mentees and your kids have helped you become more tech savvy. Because we're definitely learning a lot about YouTube subscriptions.
So it's very important that they subscribe. But in terms of the other things I'm involved with, I'm also part of the Angel Network Botswana, which is a group of angel investors. What we do is, basically interact with aspiring entrepreneurs who have ideas, who have inventions, who have businesses that they want to launch, and we give them an opportunity to pitch. And speaking of the nuggets, there's a nugget where I specifically talk about successful pitching, nuggets of wisdom on successful pitching.
Wow.
Where I state 10 points.
Yes.
And thankfully, Angel Network Botswana have adopted my 10 points guidelines.
Wow.
Which I developed after watching the likes of Shark Tank, the likes of Dragon Den, South Africa and UK, and also the one they have, I think, in Kenya. So I was able to learn from others what best way to crystallize 10 short points, where in terms of which you can, assist an aspiring entrepreneur in narrowing down their business and in pitching to an accomplished entrepreneur and bringing them in as angel investors.
Wow.
The other activity I'm involved in is also related to my profession. I'm one of the 5 judges or committee members in an organization called ICRC, which stands for Independent Complaints Review Committee. I was appointed there in 2013 by the then Minister of Finance, Ramatambo. What we basically do, we preside over disputes, multi-million pula disputes, sometimes billion pula disputes involving tenders. It's a creature of statute created through the mechanism of the PPADB Act. So we've been sitting, I've written so many judgments, and it's something that I enjoy. It's a form of national service because we get paid very nominal sitting allowance. And then, of course, there's philanthropic activities like church related. I've taken as one of my pet projects church building. So every time there's a church, lately in the Gaborone area, in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, whether we're talking about the Ginger Church, the Klokwen Church, the Pakalani Church, I'd like to see myself in the forefront in terms of contributions, in terms of motivating others to contribute, in terms of the entire fundraising efforts, so that it's a way of giving back. I'm also involved in kettle post activities, where I go to every now and then and maintain the kettle post that I inherited from my father. I also happen to be, through blood, a headman, in the sense that I'm a chief at Muduganela Ward. I'm a headman there, and once in a while, although I've appointed someone who deputizes for me as a sort of a regent, quote unquote, Rahotang, every now and then I want to go to the Kota, literally sit and adjudicate over disputes and participate as a headman from the Mudukanela ward and handle those. So those are the sort of things that pique my fancy. But any effort at mentoring, if I can mentor in groups, it's in terms of me giving a speech or talking to people. But one-on-one, I do have, it's not always possible to do one-on-one, but I do have a handful of people that I'm fortunate enough to mentor. So those are some of the activities I'm involved in outside, apart from family activities, etc.
You're a very, very busy person.
Yeah, but it's brilliant.
Yes, of course. And you enjoy it, because I really was going to ask, what do you enjoy most about what you do?
I enjoy creating, and I enjoy serving. And I enjoy sharing with others.
Absolutely.
If you look at all my businesses, whether we're talking about restaurants, whether you're talking about the law, whether you're talking about real estate, and even the lodges we operate, as well as the sanitation business, as well as the the preschools that we've set up. All these businesses, if you look at them at their core, there's service involved. There's an effort to make a difference to those people who come to us to create a wonderful customer experience. We're not always successful, and it's a work in progress. We're engaged in the process of continuous and ceaseless improvement, and we're still trying, we're still striving.
Wow. No, aluta continua. as they
Yes,
say.
aluta continua, the struggle continues.
Of course. We actually have a comment here from Trade With Me. Now, Trade With Me says, "Good evening, Big Budget. Any chance the guest can just briefly give us those 10 points for pitching a business idea?" I think what you can do is maybe tantalize them so that you can lead them to the YouTube
I think they
page.
should go, and the asker should subscribe as well.
Of course.
But
I'm
one
sure
of
they will.
them is that, involve the the investor early. I mean, I'm describing the accomplished entrepreneur
Yes.
as an investor, but involve him earlier. Some people tend to ramble on, so early you tell them that, look, is this a debt deal or is it an equity deal? If it's an equity deal, they must quickly tell you how much percentage they are willing to sell to you in their proposed venture. If it is a debt deal, they must quickly indicate how much money they want to borrow from you, and so on and so forth. And then if there's an invention involved, you should at least have a picture or a prototype of that invention.
Okay.
If it's a service involved, I suggest that you bring something like a logo, a design, or uniform,
Yes.
something that ties it to that. Also, one of the points that I mentioned is that it's very important for would-be entrepreneurs to show their direct involvement,
Okay.
as opposed to people who are saying they're employing a CEO or bringing in and most investors want to know that you have what Americans call skin in the game.
Okay.
You invested in the proposed venture.
Yes.
So that's just 3 points, but there's 7 more.
Well,
But for the rest, they have to go back there.
right.
Yeah.
So let's make sure that we go and look for Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom on YouTube.
Mm.
Definitely. Thank you very much for that. And I
And
really-
subscribe.
oh yes, and subscribe. Don't just go and watch it. Subscribe. Right. So I really picked up something there about direct involvement, because sometimes people feel that, okay, no, if I start a business, I'll get somebody to do the tasks for me. So you did mention that showing your direct involvement and not necessarily just supervisory roles is important when you're pitching.
Yeah. I'm not saying you shouldn't devise mechanisms for delegating or delegated authority, but at the initial stages, in the
Yes.
formative stages, you need to get your hands in. I'll give you an example. Even at the law firm, when I really focused on growing the business in 2013, I physically left the law firm, and then I went to physically go out there and operate from other physical locations. And because of the fact that I had neglected the law firm, it went zzz. So I'm actually trying to revive it now.
Yes.
And one lesson that I've learned is that I ought to have at least come there once a week. I ought to have at least been present. And you look at seasoned titans like Warren Mooney,
Yes.
and you still see Mr. Mooney driving to Trans-Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does.
And I, I've asked him, or, Uncle, why do you physically? It's important. It's
Wow.
important to be directly involved, even if you are not doing the heavy lifting.
Yes.
But your involvement is very important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, thank you for that question, Trade With Me. We have just one more here from Norma Googs, who says, "Hi, Big Budget. So excited about your accomplished guest tonight. What drives the entrepreneur generally in life?" I think you did touch on that a bit, but maybe just to get back into it, what drives the entrepreneur generally in life?
Yeah. The entrepreneur doesn't want to sit on their laurels.
Yes.
An entrepreneur wants to make a difference. An entrepreneur does not want to complain. It's good that you can explain the problem in one sentence or in one paragraph. But after that, focus on solutions.
Yes.
So really, an entrepreneur is driven by the desire to seek solutions, to impact others positively, and to make a difference.
Absolutely.
I think that's what drives entrepreneurs, because I happen to believe that entrepreneurs change the world. And I believe that entrepreneurs are the ones who move the ball forward, because entrepreneurs are by their nature unreasonable people. They are unreasonable because they are not happy to be given lengthy explanations of why things should remain the way they are.
Yes. They question the status quo.
Question the status quo. They dissect what's happening. They want to make a difference.
Absolutely.
So what drives an entrepreneur? The desire to make a difference and to shift the paradigm.
Wow. A reminder once again that we are live. Keep those questions and comments coming. If you'd like to call in, remember it's +267 7305 9578. Once again, +267 7305 9578. Towards our wrap up, maybe let me ask you what your biggest challenge has been in business thus far.
It's difficult to pinpoint one thing, but I found that the biggest challenge is one that is between the ears. Every time I allow negative noises to dominate, I get negative results.
Wow.
So the biggest challenge is for the entrepreneur to recognize that in as much as you need 3 meals a day, for some take, like me, just have two, they will do with 2. But in as much as you need to eat to nourish yourself, recognize that you need to nourish also the spiritual man and the mental man. You need to nourish your mind. So the biggest challenge is forgetting that I have not, refueled the engine.
Wow.
So the tendency is that when you have not refueled, you have not read, you have not been to a seminar, you have not mingled with other people, you have not had iron sharpening iron,
you're not growing.
Then you are not growing. So the biggest challenge is one of complacency. The biggest challenge is one of laxity. Wow. And to rejoice too much over your accomplishments.
Yes.
You're only as good as your last accomplishment.
Wow.
You should continually be striving
to push the envelope.
Wow.
Thank you very much for that, sir. And I noticed that your challenge was not something external in terms of the economy or COVID or
it never is.
You said the challenge is between your ears. It's right here.
Yeah.
Look, I'm looking at the Michael Jackson says, I'm looking at the man in the mirror.
Yes.
That's where all the nonsense starts.
The challenge is allowing that man in the mirror to deceive you.
Yes.
And not realizing that, you have not fueled him. So he's giving you false information that he takes from the surrounding. Your mind will just feeding you with what the last news report was, or what the last negative person said that you heard. Talking to you without you now, resetting your thinking through absorbing content and reading positive, impactful content.
Wow.
Yes.
We have a comment here from Sima who says, I have been following Mr. Mogobe's Nuggets. He has very good content and I recommend people to subscribe and watch his content.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I expect that after this show, I'm going to have 30, 40 more subscribers.
Absolutely.
That's what I suspect.
Yeah. And then Sima goes on to say, what I would like to know is how do we get the opportunity to pitch with the angel investors in Botswana that he is part of?
Well, it's very simple. You reach out. I think we have a website and we have a Facebook page, Angel Network Botswana.
Okay.
But if not, I'm happy to share my business WhatsApp number.
Yes.
At which somebody could. I don't always respond within 24 hours, by the way, because I have days on which I respond.
Yes.
But my business WhatsApp number is 7130 3500.
Okay.
7130 or +267.
Yes, +267.
Let's not forget the BW code. So 7130 3500. Yes. I'm able to direct you to people like Fred. Sometimes I'm able to arrange for a meeting with someone like Guru, with whom I sit in the mentorship committee.
Yes.
So we can perhaps put through the entrepreneur through a few pointers through the entrepreneurship committee.
Absolutely.
Before they even appear to pitch.
Yes.
Because sometimes some people need to be really assisted, handheld, as it were.
Yes. And the full names being Fred Maunze, shout out to you, and Guru Moti, right?
Yes,
of course,
absolutely.
Right.
You know them,
Yes, I do. Yeah. All right, no, so that's great. Thank you so much for that, Sima, for as well as Noma Googs and Trade With Me for engaging with us. Right, as we close, just let us know what was the last book you read. As a matter of fact, what was the last impactful book that you read?
Okay. There have been a number of one, but the one that sticks to mind is a book by a woman called Shonda Rhimes. She's a black woman, is a producer, and she wrote a book saying, I think I'm paraphrasing, it's The Power of Yes, or The Year of Yes.
Okay.
Basically, she did an experiment. She was a very successful person when she started getting to a point where 1 year her sister, they were cooking in the kitchen, and her older sister, just casually said, "You always say no." Wow. And then that comment sort of hit her, penetrated through her heart like a sword. Ooh, and she said, "What if I start saying yes?" So she experimented, and that year she started saying yes more. She only avoided things that were literally harmful to her,
of course,
or would literally lower her reputation, and she said yes to all the things that came her way. Wow. That catapulted her level of happiness, that catapulted her bank balance, that catapulted her results to such high levels, because the tendency is that we stop ourselves from undertaking new ventures. We stop ourselves from doing new things, because if you think about it, you always have the same number of reasons for saying no as you have for saying yes. But we are normally obsessed with the reasons, the wonderful, beautiful reasons, all of them valid, for saying no and not undertaking new challenges. So she did this experiment, and I saw myself in her, and I started saying yes more to invitations like this one. Of course. The old me would have said, "I'm busy on a Tuesday. It's a heavy workload tomorrow. Let me go home." Yeah, I would have said that. But now the new me, after reading that book, I'm saying yes more to opportunities like this, to share, to interact, and to see what will happen. What will the universe, what will God do as a result of my preparedness to share with others more?
Wow. Thank you. That's very inspiring. So just in closing, I will ask that you repeat how you can be contacted. You did state your WhatsApp business number. Please, can you just tell the people out there once again?
Okay. Over the last 12 months, I've actually been active on social media.
Okay.
I actually I type those things myself.
Wow.
It's been suggested to me that I should appoint some young graduate from Limcom Queen to manage my pages. I've decided, no, I want to interact with the people.
And do it personally.
So I allocate at least 2 hours every morning to my exercise and interaction with social media regime. So it's Mogobe on most platforms, but in other platforms it's Lerumo Mogobe. So if you type Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe, you'll find me somewhere. If I'm not, if you're not LinkedIn, it will be Instagram, or it will be the only place I'm missing is Twitter. But my internet guy, my internet consultant, who's Shima Kyakopa.
Okay.
He's urging me to get into Twitter as well. So that's the only place I'm not at, because the whole idea is that the businesses that we represent should be seen. The services that we offer should be exposed to the people. People should take full advantage.
Of course.
So take advantage fully of our services.
Yes.
I want you to exploit those services. I want you to optimize the usage of those services. So that's what I'm saying. But insofar as the WhatsApp number is concerned, it's +267 7130 3500 7130 3500.
Wow. Mr. Mogobe, let me thank you so much for this opportunity. This has been a wonderful show. Thank you so much for being here, sir.
It was fun. It went by very fast.
Wow,
thank you very much. Yeah,
it's been the whole night.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Before we go for our 2-minute tip, let's have a quick commercial, and we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
ZebraNet Fiber to the Home offers high dedicated speeds ranging from 5 megabytes per second to 100 megabytes per second. Why stay up at night to get better speed? Subscribe to our FTTH packages, offering each member of the family the flexibility to simultaneously surf, stream, and download all at the same time. there is internet, there is ZebraNet.
Right, so our 2-minute tip for today. Now, when we sit down and advise our clients on strategy development, we have them undertake what we call a SWOT analysis. And a SWOT analysis is basically an assessment of your business's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Now, you'll notice that the strengths and weaknesses are things that are internal for your business, whereas the opportunities and threats are things within the external environment that may impact your business. So firstly, if we look at the S, the strengths, this includes you writing down all the things that you feel your business is good at. Write down all those things that give your business a competitive edge against others. And then, of course, this could be things like your technology, your unique selling point, or research that you've undertaken. And then W, the weaknesses. Be honest with yourself and write down all those things that you know your business is not good at, those things that you feel there is a lot of room for improvement for. And then O, opportunities. Scan the environment and write down all those things that you feel your business can exploit positively. Those are your opportunities. And this could be in the form of a market segment that you haven't yet tapped into. And then lastly, T, your threats. The threats relate to anything that could cause trouble for your business. And in this case, within the environment, things like threats would be your competitors, whether large or small. Now, once again, it's important for us as young business people to ensure that we undertake a regular SWOT analysis of our businesses. Assess your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, which will give you a clear picture of where you stand in the market and where you can take your business in the future. So from me, BigBudget, and the team, it's been a wonderful show. Thank you so much. Good night. God bless. And never forget that you were born for so much more.
Greetings, I'm Hope, and I'm here to do something I've called myself stupid for a lot in the past week, and it's a tribute by me to Tani Poppy. She's my grandmother's sister right now. She's battling breast cancer, and I'm gonna get rid of all of this. Yeah. I, Hope Matthys, sacrifice my hair, a symbol of health and beauty for the women and men, but mostly women, who have taken a loss of theirs to breast cancer. Given no choice, their bodies through treatment surrender what I have a luxury of. The evidence of femininity we flaunt, they lose without fault and fight for eyes that see a chest clear of flaw while balancing a pivot between life and death in the midst of deteriorating health, ate and fed by radiation, creating societal alienation to the definition of woman. Beyond body image, its self-esteem she pleased to redeem through purity in mind, soul, and bloodstream. The reality of cancer is an eyesore in the mirror and a nauseating daydream initiated by pills and laser beams. My breasts are sexualized. She lost the best of her sexuality to the inhumane audacity of nature. Feminine profanity, for we're both objectified by society. The minor minority that but pleads for life and ability to nourish it without planting genes destined to perish. She embodies rebellion, defying the borders of definition designed to oppress her temple when she no longer resembles their narrow, non-empathetic perspective of woman, a loss, a near death, and sought for health without choice. Here are my respects in voice, so we may rejoice your beauty and being heroines against the odds.